Welcome, amazing agents from across the country. Today is July 6th, 2017, and this is Mastermind call number 133. We do have one person in the queue. Please participate. Hit *6 and hit 1, and you'll be up next. And let me go around the horn. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
Not too much today. I'm going to be short on the call. I'm going to have to take off a little bit early today, helping my daughters get moved into their new digs, but just wanted to let everybody know that we're moving forward on the initial group of folks that expressed an interest in being part of our OBIT program, and today would be about the last day that you have an opportunity to do that, to get started. If you're interested and want to learn a little bit more about it, we still have a few more spaces available, but that's about it. We're going to cut it off after today and take that down until we kind of get through this initial part of it. If you're interested and you'd like to participate, go log into your subscriber portal. I think the third button down on the left will give you all the information about the program, and we'll go from there. That's about all I have. Let's go get them.
All right, Chad, anything from a training perspective?
Yeah, so we had role play call number 22 yesterday. We do a probate role play call the first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. And had a really, really unique call. So if you didn't catch that call, a couple of really neat new ideas that hadn't come up on any previous conversations we've had. You can find those archived calls two different places. If you're not a subscriber, you can look in our Facebook group, All the Leads Mastermind. If you're not a member, you can request access. And then if you are a subscriber, you can just go into your subscriber portal. On the left, look under Conference Calls, and then click the blue button for Conference Call Archive. And the calls are archived there as we post, and we'll post them there as they're done. So if you are just getting started with, regardless of where you are in the process, the role play call yesterday will help you with building a referral network, and the initial conversation were kind of the main two topics of the three core role plays that we did. So be sure and check those out. And then July 17th, 18th, and 19th is the July Probate Mastery Training. I have not sent out the emails yet, but you can sign up on subscriber portal if you click on Education and Training. We already have 4 or 5 folks in the class this month. And if you're not a subscriber, you can go to alltheleads.com, click on the system, Probate, Education, and Training, and you can sign up there. But we start the 17th. We'll go 3 days consecutive from 2 p.m. to whenever we're finished, usually 3 to 4. And with that, you get your Certified Probate Expert Certificate, which was one of the questions that came up yesterday on the call, and a really good idea of how you can use that if you listen to that recording.
Excellent. And Chad, I get asked constantly, I'm brand new, and I know we have a lot of new people on the call. Absolutely, the first thing you should be doing is watching those fast track videos. They will answer 98% of your questions in a base. You can run through them in 30 minutes, or you could probably spend a couple hours on them. But if you're a subscriber, go to your subscriber resource area, watch the fast track videos. Over and above that, we have 133 of these mastermind calls archived over the last couple of years. I wouldn't recommend listening to all of them. We've made tremendous progress in the content and the quality over the last couple of years. I'd probably start with the most recent one and go backwards. And with all of the material, Chad does a really good job, whether it's posted on our website or it's posted on the Facebook group. The role play calls, the monthly role play call, the probate calls, the mastery. They're all, there's tabs that'll kind of summarize what was covered on the call. So if you have a particular issue that you're dealing with, you need help with, just scroll down, and I pretty much guarantee you we've covered it before. Somebody else has had the same question, and we've answered it for them. So tremendous amount of material there. Also, the Facebook group, whether it's the open or the closed group, especially the closed one, is a tremendous resource. If nights, weekends. It's kind of a challenge. Chad and I kind of monitor that, and it's a challenge for us because usually by the time we see a question and answer it, 4 or 5 of you have already chimed in to help your fellow member out, and that's very gratifying, and that's the way groups like this should work. So please, end of speech, I want y'all to take advantage of all the resources we have out there, and those are some good ones. Tom, anything you want to share, customer service perspective?
Just remind everybody that if they need anything from us, just send us an email at support@allleads.com, and we'll get it to the right person and get back to you as quickly as possible.
Yep, you can do support or just hit that contact us button on our website and try to be as specific as possible what you need help with. Everybody has all the partners and all of our employees have a different role in the company and different things that we're really good at. So if you're real specific what you need help with, the best person to help you will usually get right back to you. And I think our response time on those is less than 20 minutes. It won't always be less than 20 minutes, but it usually will be. And that is it. Now, we only have one person in the queue, so I hope you have a very long question, or I hope we can get some more participation. I bet we've got close to 100 people on this call, if not more. There's nothing, guys, that's off base here. If you think it's a basic question, there's a lot of new people. Somebody else probably has the same question. If there's a win you want to share with the group, we had 4 or 5 really great wins last week. Thank you, Tom. I just cajoled someone else to go in there. And we have room for 7 or 8 people, maybe 10. So hit *6 and hit 1. And let's go ahead and go to the first person in the queue. Phone number ending in 1734, you're up.
I think it's 1377, but that's okay.
It shows up as a different number, but that's
fine. Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but
okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's you, whatever the number is.
Yeah, it's Paul. And
hey, Paul.
I do have a long question. It's a 7-part question, but it's going to go fast.
Awesome.
I'll just pull it right through them.
Well, see, I asked for it. I got it. Thank you.
Yes, you did. That's why I signed up right away, on the queue.
Sure.
So just the first one is just informational. I had pulled some information off the county website, and I was calling those this morning, and I got this one lady that said, you got to be about the 100th person calling me. But then when I was calling the ATL leads, nobody else was calling. So that's good. I'm new to this program, so that's a very good start.
Well, thank you. That's good to know. Yeah, that's excellent.
Here's some quick questions. First is I was calling some of them ATL leads today, and noticed that I was calling some of the husbands or the spouses that they said that the whole will was already probated, and they were actually living in the very same house that was in the will, if that makes sense. So why didn't they just get the property deeded to them, by joint ownership? Why did that have to go through probate? Does that make sense? And why was it then provided as a lead?
Well, so we give you every probate that's filed in your county, regardless of the assets. I mean, we in most cases, the assets aren't recorded with the probate, so you have no clue what's in it. The best way to find that out is speaking with the families and seeing how you can help. The reason a property would transfer from spouse A to spouse B and need to be probated is because it wasn't held as in joint tenancy. So they may have not, whoever did the real estate closing might not have given them great advice. But if it is held in joint tenancy, it can transfer. Sometimes in some states it requires an affidavit, spousal something. I can't recall the name of the form, and it's going to be different in different markets. But there is just one simple form that says this house was held in tenants in common, or as joint tenancy, and it transfers from spouse A to spouse B. But assuming there was a stock portfolio and cars with loans on them, or any other assets or liabilities, those need to be probated as part of the overall estate. So probate would still be filed even if that property transferred contractually.
And a common reason for that would be also that one of the parties may have owned real estate when they got married. So it was already titled in one name and not the other.
You got it.
Or somebody could own an investment property and the wife may not own shares in the LLC because there was a business partner that owned the other shares. Like she may not have been connected to the entity. It's literally there's a million reasons. And what we always try to encourage folks is, don't try to guess when you're staring at a spreadsheet. Pick up the phone and provide some service and find out.
Excellent. Now, it's this one guy said that they didn't have any real estate. So you're pulling up what's being probated. You don't know if it's got real estate, is what you just said, right?
That's right. And we're testing a system right now that we've built to do a much better job, and we can actually pull a whole lot of specifics on the real estate. And until we've got that to where we feel it's as accurate as it can be, we'll continue working with that. But right now you're getting every probate that's filed in your county, and statistically, about 80% of Americans over the age of 65 own real estate. So it's an assumption, but you can assume that about 80% of your list will have a home or will have had a home. What you find is a lot of them had to sell in order to qualify for Medicaid or Medicare or Medicaid. A lot of them will have sold because they know mom and dad's moving in with a family member and they're never coming back to this place, and it's just too much for the family to take care of. Some will list, during an illness before death. Some will never sell. Some will stay in the family. It's just, it's a matter of just understand that no one's going to list 100% of the real estate. There's going to be, 2, 4, 6% in there that actually need your service.
And I always feel compelled to add when we get that question that, and I think we learned this from our subscribers, if the executor is local and they say there's no real estate or it's already sold, you might want to ask that extra question. Well, great, now that the estate is settled, do you have any plans on maybe upgrading the home you live in or buying some investment property? Because remember, you're talking to somebody who just inherited close to $200,000.
Yeah, on average. Mm-hmm.
On average. So the first thing a lot of those people are going to do is probably buy a nicer house for themselves. So, it doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity for you there to help the person and possibly, sell them something else.
Great. Now, the leads that go into my county, is that the property of the deceased, or is that the executor's property address?
Well, you get both. So you're going to get the mailing address for the personal representative, and you're also going to get the last known mailing address for the deceased, which, in my frank opinion, is probably the least relevant piece of data that we give you. It's just simply, this is where they got mail when they passed away.
Okay. Yeah,
so
that's
a lot of people.
question.
A lot of people put this laser focus on that and try to make all these assumptions. And,
right.
As an example, so we ran a testing in Southern California and pulled a market as part of the Probate Plus, where we verify real estate owned and all the details on it down to the equity level. And in that test, there were 12 properties that had deceased last known address was an apartment. And as we dug in, those properties ranged from $250,000 to $2.5 million and did in fact belong to the deceased and were in fact part of the probate. So had somebody looked at that list and said, well, those are apartments, I'm not going to call them or mail them, they would have stepped over probably, I think it was close to $10 million worth of listing opportunities. So don't get distracted by the deceased last known address. I mean, people's life situations could have them living anywhere. It could be a nursing home, it could be a co-op, it could be anything, especially in places like New York, or that instance was in, I think, around Hollywood and Los Angeles or somewhere, where apartments, condos actually carried, it said apartment 123, but it was a whole ownership condo. So don't try to guess too much.
You got it.
It's always better to just hear it directly from the PR.
I got 3 more quick ones, and that is door knocking. Do you guys recommend door knocking the PR?
We've had folks in like the San Francisco market is probably the most success I've heard, which was really surprising to me because of the privacy expectation. But if you're in a market that doesn't have gated communities and non-solicitation postings, if you have done door knocking in the past and you're good at it, absolutely. I would say just create a version of the letter that can be left behind or handed to them in person. almost like turn your letter into almost like a flyer. There's a really good trifold brochure that is in the files of our Facebook group that Bud Thompson shared with the group. You may consider printing off a few hundred of those, and it's a really good leave behind, especially if you don't have an opportunity to talk to them. But I always encourage everyone to go try stuff that most people won't, and that's certainly one of those.
That was one of my next questions is handouts. You'd say go to the Facebook versus
if you go to
online.
All the Leads Mastermind and then look under the Files tab in the top menu, there's a trifold brochure that Bud Thompson shared quite a while back. And we can print those for you. We have proofs if you want to. You can email support at All the Leads and just say contact me about flyers, and Mark will he can get you some proofs and help you design yours.
Okay, great. Last question.
I was going to add to that, if I may, that as far as getting in front of people, we highly encourage you also to reach out to the attorneys. And when you see an attorney doing multiple deals every month, try to get in front of that attorney. And we've heard pretty consistently across the country that the most effective method for attorneys is they don't answer their phone. They have gatekeepers. They don't respond to mail. Stop by the law office. Try to get 5 minutes in front of them and drop something off for them. That can be highly effective also. If you're going to door knock, maybe on the way back, stop by one of the two of the law firms and door knock them also.
And if you guys, we had some really good discussion on a new idea for prospecting attorneys. I won't get into it here, but listen to that role play call from yesterday. There's some really good nuggets in there.
Great. Last question is scripts. I know from yesterday's call, you guys aren't necessarily big on scripts because you think you might sound mechanical. Do you have any scripts?
There's one, and it's hidden in the same place the trifold is. It's on the Facebook group under Files, and you'll see it's heavily disclaimered. The reason I'm against scripts is because there's so many ways these conversations can go. If we teach you how to do it one way and your conversation goes the other, you look like a fool. So I would much rather you understand the situation and how to react to it and have your own language, and you're going to be a much more professional and much more successful salesperson.
All right. Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Excellent. All great questions. Thank you so much. And we only have one more person in the queue. Star 6 and hit 1, guys, please. We want some participation. In the meantime, phone number ending in 8690, you're up next.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can hear you great. Thank you.
Okay, good. My name's Tom. I'm in the Central Florida area. I didn't have a bunch of great questions because I'm still pretty new to this, but I'm going to go with a couple of simple ones. First of all, I also want to make a comment. I actually called the Marion County Clerk's office and talked to the supervisor of probate. She actually, because I'm actually handling my mother's estate and trying to pre-plan so for when she passes. And she spent an hour on the phone with me today, and that was really great. She even found me a deed of a property that I couldn't find. And she was giving me a little education. So now I'm going to try it in my own county, and I kind of got a better feel for how to get through to start talking and learning. Anyway, I have a quick, easy question, okay? Why, I was on the call last week, and it was mentioned, or I was on one of the webinars, why do we not want to put, or should we put, a return address on our mailing? Because I'm getting ready to do my first mailing.
It's kind of preference. So I tracked my first 12,000. Well, I paid attention on my first 12,000 pieces of mail with a return address, and I got 6 back. So 6 out of 12,000. And I thought, okay, so I'm obviously not using the return address that much. Let's try it without. And I had a slight uptick in response. So it just comes down to, it's Jay Abraham said there's no such thing as marketing, like a marketing budget. It's just a test budget. It just comes down to what your personal preference is and what you find to work best for you. We know that greeting card envelopes work best, and I think it's a split opinion on whether or not return addresses are good or not. I mean, if you do use a return address, it's better to use a personal address. You don't want to do like something, if you're in an office park where it's obviously a business address, I would say leave it off. where if you're 123 main, 123 Pleasant Circle, and then that would probably be more effective than Business Park Suite 3, because it's obviously a business letter coming from from that.
Okay, so you're saying the greeting cards for like my first mailing is what you recommend to be the first thing to go out?
That's what's worked best. So we use a standard greeting card envelope, and we use a very, very good handwritten font that's even, we go as far as to put it on a slant so it looks like the envelope was turned and it's natural handwriting. And we use first-class stamps, and you can choose whether you want to use a return address or not. You can customize everything to how you want it.
Okay. Is there any place where you've collected maybe 2 or 3? I know you've got your sample template, but maybe how some of the other folks, the other guys and gals, women that have modified a little bit to just kind of get a feel for some of the different styles that we could look at as samples. Have you ever collected those from some of the more effective folks in this program?
Yeah, and Chad, I think Tim had to leave early today. Tim does our mailings, and I was the first
Yeah,
part.
I'm still on, bud.
Oh, you're still there? Okay, go ahead, Tim. I was going to ask you to comment on how few letters come back when you've tested it. They virtually all get delivered. That's one of the reasons you don't put the address on there, also, correct?
Yeah, generally speaking, that's the case, and it just helps to get the opens done better. In regard to your question about samples and things like that, we're happy to do that, to kind of talk to you a little bit about what other people are doing. A lot of the time, some of the folks that do these letters, they're focused on having them done. It's their creation, and so they're not always too hot to share them, but we certainly have a bunch of samples that we can do. And if you look on the website itself, if you look on a couple of the areas that refer to Mailbox Motivator, you'll see a bunch of different samples shown there as well. And I guess the only thing I would say about this also is don't overthink this process. The simple fact is that getting a letter out, getting it in front of someone, and having it get opened, you're branding it. And what it does is it accomplishes 2 things. First off is you're getting your brand in front of them. They understand that you're the person that they're dealing with. They get it. And the next time that phone rings and you're on the phone, they may have already thrown your letter away. They may get other letters as well, but it gives you that warm call. Hey, my name's Tom, and I'm calling you in regard to the letter that I sent out. You should have gotten it in the last couple of days. It came in a nice-looking envelope. Did you have a chance to take a look at that? And what it's doing is really just opening that up for you so that you can get to it a little bit.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. And
Makes
last one, I think that's very simple. Yesterday on the role play call, we were talking about a networking group that's, I guess, very prevalent around. What was it NSI? Chad,
BNI, so it's Business Network International.
BNI, okay. I was actually local. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you guys for your participation. We have 3 more in the queue. Phone number ending in 2042. You're up next.
Hi, this is Dan. How are you today?
Hey, Dan. Welcome. Wonderful. How about you?
Good, thank you. So I'm looking at my July list, and I was just looking at the perusing through the date of deaths, and I was surprised to see out of a list of 60 that almost 25 of the deaths had occurred anywhere from 4 to 12 plus years ago. Is that pretty common?
Chad, we get
how many overall leads do you have?
Yeah.
Oh, there were 60 in this bunch.
That's really high. So it's common, but not at that percentage. Typically what that scenario is, and I've actually spoken to probate clerks about this, and they agree with me that with my assumption. But typically, families don't quite understand. It's very few families have an estate plan, and even fewer know about the probate process before they're forced into it. So a lot of folks, if there weren't a lot of assets or if there weren't a lot of liabilities where things didn't have to move around, a lot of folks just kind of keep on keeping on, and they don't realize that they need to actually probate the estate. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I've seen it happen. I had one from 1983.
I'm looking at one from 1983.
Yeah. So usually when they discover that they have to go back and retroactively probate is when they try to refinance the house or sell the house. And that's usually when it comes up in the title search, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, who's John Doe? Oh, that's my dad. He died 20 years ago. Okay, I'm going to need a death certificate, the probate documents. What's probate? And then they have to go back and kind of retroactively go through the process. So that's typically what you see. And like I said, I've kind of spoken with probate clerks and tried to find other reasons, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So that's usually what you're looking at, which may be an indication that they are refinancing or have already put the home on the market. But the easiest way to find out is, again, pick up the phone and see how you can help them. I was going to say the good news there is they've either sold it or they've decided to sell it. So that could be a really good lead if they haven't already listed or sold it. So definitely don't ignore them. Give them a call just like all the others.
Thank you.
Okay. You're very welcome.
Yep.
We have 2 more in the queue. Was that it, or do you have a follow-up question?
No more. Yep.
All right. Thank you. All right. Phone number ending in 4100. You're up next.
Hello. How is everybody today?
Wonderful. Thanks for participating.
All right. So if you don't put a return address on, how do you know if they've received it? Because if it has a return address on it, it's just a question. Then if the address isn't right, it comes back to you. But if it doesn't, it just goes into dead mail. So how can you... So one of the things we do before anything makes it to you, we actually verify mailing addresses. So if we throw a red flag on a mailing address, then we go back and say, hey, this is wrong, and we try to get the correct data if it's available. That's one of the quality control points that we have in our data. And the other thing to keep in mind is that we're dealing with data no older than 30 days old. So we're going into your courthouse and pulling it with at least every 30 days. And it's a legal recording, so you can assume that it should be valid, like it's a pretty important document. So, barring any human error, it should be correct. And then we have quality control in place to hopefully flag that and catch the error if it's not a verified mailing address. Now,
it can't go out our door to you until it's passed through exactly what Chad said. We run it against the Postal Service deliverable database, so we know that letter is in fact going to a non-vacant deliverable address.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I haven't got my leads yet, so I'm just a novice. I'm just asking questions based on I don't even know.
Sure. Yeah, let me just add one other thing about that so that, there's no confusion on the part of other people. In the past, we literally just started doing that about 30 days ago across the board. We always pretty much did it for the mail that we send out from Mailbox Motivator, but we weren't doing it because there's some degree of extra cost in doing it. We weren't doing it on all of the addresses to make sure that was the case, and we just decided to go ahead and do it on all of them and include it in our service about 30, 45 days ago. So some people along the way, other people have done mailings and they have gotten bounce back, but we think we pretty well eliminated that. So that's kind of why we say it that way. We've done what we needed to do to make sure your letters are going to get delivered. You don't have to worry about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. 2 more people in the queue. Phone number ending in 8422. You're up next.
Hello, this is Dennis. How you doing today?
Wonderful, Dennis. Thanks for participating.
Great. I've got a question for you. When we're making some of the calls that we have in the past, here's the response we have gotten. You know what? I've got 30 different letters here from everybody in the world. I'm just sick and tired of you people, blah, blah, blah. How do you handle that call?
How many? Have you gotten any other phone calls?
Well, let's say we make a phone call and they say we've gotten 20 letters from everybody. I don't know which letter you're talking about.
So I would go with humor. So you got to disarm them, right? I would say, well, aren't you lucky? I'm the only one that called. You don't have to go digging through the letters to get my phone number. And I would hit them with that and break their state.
Yeah, and we're getting success with it, so it's working. But we're going to be very interested in your the OBIT program as well.
So something that we cover oftentimes on role play calls is the empathetic approach. When you obviously have somebody to disarm, just remember 3 words: feel, felt, found. I know it's frustrating, isn't it? I know how you feel. That's how all of our clients feel when we start talking to them. But what they've found is that once they understand we're offering something a lot different than the other 17 guys that sent you big yellow postcards, they realize we can help them a lot in their situation and oftentimes take most of it off their plate. If you can tolerate me for 5 minutes, I'll tell you more about it. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
And just my opinion, casual. The more casual, the better. When somebody's being defensive like that, and try to make them laugh and disarm them. Ask good questions, but empathy's the best approach. I mean, if you can say, "I know how you feel," I'm validating that. All my clients felt that way until they found out what we could really do, and then they knew we weren't the devil. We were actually a great community service. And aren't you lucky that you caught me today?
Okay. And would you suggest that we make the call after the first letter, not the second or the third, right?
Make a call after each letter, because people move through this at many different paces. So it's about getting them at the right time. You'll list just as many or more off of letter and phone call 2 and 3 as you do off the first.
All right. And what if they don't answer the phone? Would you suggest leaving a voicemail or not?
I do. I mean, it's be brief. Don't try to sell anything on the phone on a voicemail. It's, "Hey, this is Chad. I sent you a letter. I was just calling to make sure you got it and you understood why we sent it. Give me a shout when you have a chance. I'm not Chad the realtor. I'm not Chad the investor. I'm just Chad.
Mm-hmm.
I sent a letter, and I wanted to make sure you understood." And that hopefully will create enough curiosity that they will either call me back or go read my letter and know that I'm coming from the right place and my offer is a lot different than the others.
Okay. I'd like to impart something that happened to us on a mailer. I went in there and adjusted one of the letters, and instead of putting the ampersands in front of or behind it, I just put the one name, and it went out to 180 people with that one name on it.
Uh-oh.
I got tons of calls.
So just so it's clear to everybody, you edited a merge field and made a mistake and mailed John Doe 180 times, and people called to say it wasn't John Doe, it was Sally Jones, right?
No, I don't know who you're talking about. Well, while I got you on the phone, I'll be honest with you, I got more business off that than the regular names. So
maybe you should send a letter that says, "Is your refrigerator running?" and just put your phone number at the bottom.
That reminds me, Dennis, we had a subscriber yesterday, and you got to laugh, but well-meaning, but he said about 8 of his leads had the same last name, Aka, AKA, was also known as. So, no, that's not the same last name. So, I could testify to what Chad said though about humor. I was a prospecting machine when I was an agent, and I used to call FSBOs every day, and I can't tell you how many people would say, "My gosh, are you going to call me every single day?" And I'd say, "Well, there's only one way to stop that. List your house with me, and you'll never hear from me again." They would like, "What? Yeah, you're funny. What's your name again?" I mean, you gotta be. It's a serious time for these people, but if you can empathize with them enough to get them to laugh and to kind of relax a little bit and get off the defensive, you got them. Then they're going to listen to what you have to say. And Dennis, I wanted to ask you. You said you've had some pretty good success. You've been at it for a few months now. Do you want to share like a success or two with the group?
7 months. The biggest listing we got was on a commercial piece of property that was sent out. That was the wrong name, and the lady called me. Actually, was very irate. And so I kind of broke the humor, and I said, "Yes, our clearinghouse had a little snafu there, and however, and then I just went on, and we got the listing, and it's under contract, and it's going to close, and I had more calls off that particular mistake than I directly instead of calling out, I was getting calls in. So
Gotcha.
that was the difference.
Excellent.
Yeah, we've done probably the last 7 months a little over $1 million for the sales. So it's coming along. It's got a ways to go, but we're working at it.
Not bad. I think there's a few people on this call that would like to do an extra $1 million this year. So that's I'm sure you just inspired people. That's great, Dennis. Thank you so much for participating. Anything else we can help you with today?
It.
All right. We have one more. Thank you so much. We have one more person in the queue. We do have room for more. *6 and hit 1. Otherwise, phone number ending in 3845. It looks like you're the last for today. What can we help you with?
Hey guys, Jim Richardson. I just wanted to confirm. I know the script is there as a guide, not as a to be read verbatim. But is it on the Facebook site? Is that where I'll find it?
Yeah. So if you go to the group, not the site, the page. So All the Leads Mastermind is the group, and you look under the Files tab.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And I was just going to expand on that a little bit. You know, my wife and I were big on scripts, and you know, we did a lot of just listed, just sold calling. And I don't think she'd mind me sharing this, but she was in a zone one day, and she called a gentleman, and, you know, so if you were to move, where would you go next? Or when do you plan on moving? And he said, well, my dad died 2 months ago, and my mom died last week. And she said, oh, your dad died and your mom died? Good for you. If you were to go move, where would you go next? And she was just so in the zone of the script. You don't want to do that in these kind of situations. You want to, and it's not that we don't want you to follow a format. Chad has a great seller's checklist with good progression of questions. And Chad, you might want to, you know, if you, rather than use a script, that's really what we suggest. And I think that's after is that after the fast track video number 1? That comes up?
No. So in lieu of a script, what we give you is a framework that kind of shows you how to, you know, get the right information in the right order. And that's based on hundreds of conversations and what made them progress the smoothest. And each one's going to be a little different. But if you watch video 3 in Probate Fast Track, it's around the 8-minute mark where we talk about this. It'll kind of explain the things you need to be aware of going into the initial conversation. When that video finishes playing, below it, a download will pop up that's called the Probate Seller Interview Sheet. And I formatted it as a one-page printout. It's in Microsoft Excel, so you can edit the questions and make it yours. But that's what we encourage you to do. So just understand what information you need, not exactly what you're going to say to get it. And you'll say it different every time. I mean, if it's, you know, I probably have never had the same conversation twice with a PR. One of the best things you can do beyond that is take that probate seller interview sheet and listen to some of the recorded role play calls and hear what other people do. And that'll kind of give you an idea of, you know, well, hey, there's a really good question. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to ask it this way, or I'm going to move this down here and that up there and do it in a different order. But that's what we, you know, would prefer everybody do, because that's what we've seen to, you know, that has created the most success and the best salespeople we've seen in this niche.
Excellent. And we do have 2 more people in the queue. Any follow-up to that, Jim? Or are you good?
No, that's it. You answered my question.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for participating. All right, phone number ending in 8924. You're up next.
Hey, how you doing, guys? I was just calling. My question was, I send the mail out, everything, and when I call these people, some of them haven't finished the probate, the whole probate, getting their name under, and I was wondering if there's a way to get them under contract or a listing agreement without them finishing the process, although completely.
Yeah, and Chad, I know you want to expand on this, but you should be getting them before the probate is finished. And honestly, that should be your call to action on the first call. The attorneys file these probate and tell the people, okay, you're not going to be able to sell for a few months. So they're basically initially in a holding pattern, and you need to let them know on the initial call that, you know, hey, do you want to be closing in September or just getting started then? You know, why don't we go ahead and get it on the market and take advantage of this downtime to find a buyer? You know, in most cases, and Chad, correct me if you have a different view, but in most cases, they're authorized. I mean, they can rent the property, they can sell the personal property inside the house, they can sign a listing contract, they can even sign a contract contingent on the probate closing. They just can't deliver clear title until the process is completed. Chad, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, good language that Jim offered. You know, I want to underscore, would you rather be closing in September or just getting started? And typically it's not in their best interest to leave a house vacant off the market, and, you know, they have to maintain it, and it's, you know, it may or may not be covered under the current insurance policy. They might have to get a vacant house policy, which is typically twice as much as a homeowner's policy. So there's certain things that they probably haven't thought of, and the attorney certainly didn't tell them. If he can keep it off the market and keep an aggravating realtor out of his hair, that's the advice he's going to pass along until it's ready to go. But it's usually not in their best interest, and if you can just, you know, have your own ways to explain why it is in their best interest to get it on the market, and maybe that's market conditions, maybe it's because school's out, maybe it's because the lawn needs mowed every week, maybe it's because the insurance policy isn't actually covering the home right now. So think of those reasons, those stress points, and the way you can solve that, you know, get it done quicker.
Yeah, my experience is that most of the primary representatives don't know how long that process is going to take to get free and clear title.
What state are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Okay. So I don't know, and Jim might be able to speak better to this, but in most states, you can actually kind of circumvent that requirement by petitioning the court for full authority. So if you post a bond or the will waives that bond and you petition for authority, you can actually control the process without court approval every step of the way. But even in Florida, even without that, you can, you know, get the home under contract with a future closing date, take it to the probate attorney. He can lobby the judge and hopefully get that approved, you know, before everything else. Because in reality, there's no reason other than people taking advantage of the family. There's no reason for the court to stand in the way of a sale, because you're liquidating the most valuable asset in order to settle liabilities. So there's no incentive for anyone to not sell the home. The more efficient that process is, the more efficient the overall process is.
Yeah, and I'm in Florida too. I've seen good attorneys get them done in 6 weeks. It's usually 6 weeks to 4 months. And by the way, that's a really good reason to reach out to call, why you really need to talk to the attorney. And it's a good opportunity to kind of bond with, make friends with the attorney. Call the attorney, say, hey, I just listed the Johnson property. I need to talk to Mr. Attorney Smith to find out when he anticipates the probate closing. Find out from the attorney, and then that's a really good opportunity for you to say to him, by the way, I specialize in probate. So do you? Do you have a go-to agent you recommend? So that he will have a sense, and also maybe you can light a little bit of a fire under him if it's not already there. Generally, these attorneys do want to close it out though, because they don't bill hourly for probate. Most of the time, it's a flat fee, and they want to get it done. So
and I would also use this as an opportunity to reach that attorney. And I would say, I'm calling about the estate of Jane Doe. Can I speak with Attorney Harry? And when you get Harry on the phone, say, Harry, listen, I spoke with Jane this morning, and I just wanted to make sure that I understand this correctly. And I also wanted to introduce myself and kind of let you know there's somebody here locally that can probably make this a lot more efficient for you and Jane. Have you got 5 minutes to talk? And just sell him on how you can help his business. So how can you make it more efficient? How can you uphold his fiduciary responsibility to his client and make sure that they're getting the most amount of money for the home? Like, hit those key points that show them, I'm going to protect your client and I'm going to make your life easier. And instead of standing in your way and telling clients they can't list the home, you may get a steady flow of referrals or endorsements from him for future clients. Okay. But it's a really good opportunity for you you have a good reason to show up in his office. And I would do it. I would do that. I wouldn't call. I would show up.
All right, because I was working with that. There was just one incident that there happened to be a murder in the estate or the property, and that was a hold-up, which is going to take years. So that was a different thing. Yeah,
crime scene, active crime scene is hard to get around. You get a long-term listing, I guess, right?
Yeah. So that was that's going to take a while, and we can't do anything on that one. But there are other clients that some leads that are, it's a standard 6 to 4 week process that they're waiting on.
Sure.
And they just don't feel like they can do anything legally or legitimately move forward without having it done. So I just wanted to go over that.
Let me ask you this. Those folks, just looking back on those conversations, are they not doing anything? Are the houses already empty, or are they just leaving them sit?
Yeah, the houses are empty. I mean, they're not empty. They still have their, the deceased property in there. And they just feel like the lawyers gave them, the information. Oh, they have to wait 6 to 4 weeks.
Here's why I asked the question. If the house is full of personal property, why don't you step up and provide value by saying, well, listen, one of the things we do is help get homes clean, get personal property sold and homes cleaned out. So over the next 4 weeks, why don't we tackle that, and your home will be perfectly ready for the market once we get there, even if they don't, and ideally you would want them to sign a forward-dated listing agreement. So, you can, or the agreement starts today, the MLS listing starts 4 weeks from now. But find ways to get in front of these people and offer value, and that's going to insulate you against 6 weeks of other people calling them. So if you went the extra mile and they said, no, we haven't done anything, the attorney said not to, okay, well, listen, we see this often. Most attorneys in this market, for whatever reason, tell folks that, but we can absolutely get the home, get the personal property sold, generate some money for the estate. We'll get our cleaning crews in there, get it cleaned up. It'll be ready for market. If we need repairs, we've got contractors. It really starts with us kind of understanding the whole situation, and seeing the house is usually the best first step. So would you be able to meet up for a half an hour on Friday just so I can take a quick look and give you guys a professional opinion? And just find a reason to get in front of them and provide value. When you do that, you're going to impress them. And anyone else who calls, they're just going to blow off. But if you call them back 4 weeks later, there's a real good chance that they'll say, oh, well, my listing agent you should bring us a contract, bring us a buyer.
It'll be too late. Okay. Yeah.
All right, sir.
Yep, great. Thanks, guys.
All right, one more. We'll make this the last one. We have one more person in the queue. Great participation, guys, today. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Last one up this week is phone number ending in 0377. You're up.
Hey, guys. This is Gabe Clements. I am calling regarding I understand that these phone calls are being recorded, and just verifying that these recordings will be on the website with the other recorded calls, and how long does it take for them to get uploaded to that?
Should by the end of business today. It'll be posted. I post a Facebook post within 5 minutes usually, within 20 minutes. And then it gets on the website usually within the hour.
Okay. Everything that's on the Mastermind group on the Facebook page, is all of that content available on the website?
A lot more is available on the website.
Okay.
And it's
excellent.
in a much
Thank
better,
you.
as far as these recordings, they're in a much better format. So if you click on the left, click conference call, and then the blue button, conference call archive, it's in a calendar format. It's almost laid out like a podcast format. So you can click back through the months and go back almost 3 years.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that will do it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Great participation, great attendance, some really good ideas, good questions. I always like to end these calls by challenging everybody. We had close to 100 people today that showed up. You took a good almost hour of your time. Take one idea, one thought, one thing that inspired you that you heard from someone else today on this call. Go out and put it into practice, and come back next Thursday and share with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week. We will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.